45, day 60, more or less around there. So I know that for many parents right now, questions are different, right? And I wanted to address a few strategies, a few tips that can help you during this whole situation in which there is no playbook. Nobody has ever had to parent during a pandemic in our generation. So the first thing is to be kind to yourself and to accept that we don't have the answers. There's a lot of uncertainty. It's okay to not be okay. But as parents, we need to provide answers and be role models for our children. So one of the biggest issues right now is how to address all these difficult questions that our children are asking us. And I know that answers will vary depending on the age of your child. And the questions will also change and depend on the age of your kid, because younger kids tend to be very literal. So you have to be very, very careful about how much information you are offering your child. But what doesn't change across the board is that you always need to be the most reliable source of information. What this means is that you need to build trust every single day with your child, whether they're 1 year old or they're 17. And yes, at 17, they're still kids. Their brain still hasn't developed. So they still look to us to provide guidance and answers. So let me explain to you a little bit about how to adjust how much information you provide. So in the younger years, you cannot really provide every single little detail. It would only create more anxiety, and it's not relevant, it's not appropriate, and children can become very anxious and very scared very soon. Older kids, on the other hand, if you don't give them reliable information and if you don't give them the whole picture, then they start not trusting you at all. Distrust builds because they are so exposed to other sources of information that they will turn to their friends and to social media as their first source. And you always want to be their go-to person, always. So just be very careful on how much you share and how you share it. What I do think is a healthy approach is younger kids absolutely should not watch the news at all. Don't expose them to any kinds of news. And I actually encourage you to also limit your exposure to the news. You don't have to be glued to the TV or to the internet 24/7. I know it's very tempting. I did it in the beginning, and honestly, it was affecting me tremendously. So please know that if you are doing this, it's human nature, but it might not be the healthiest approach. Another tip that I wanted to share with you, especially with teens, is they're going to be asking you, like, when can they see their friends? When can they go back to normal? And we don't have the answers right now. We know that this is the new normal for the time being. So it's okay to say, I don't know. Instead of making up an answer, teens are very, very big on authenticity. And if you don't tell them the truth, they will realize whether you're making stuff up or, again, it's going to hurt your relationship with them and affect how much trust they have in you. My advice to give assurance to kids is to be simple in your answers, be truthful, but again, limit the amount of information that you offer younger kids, because later those words, they start like lingering in their heads, and maybe they'll have trouble sleeping. They might become worried what is going to happen to grandma, to grandpa. Are my parents going to die just because of what they might have heard from the news? Or maybe they have heard you speaking to other adults over the phone. So be very mindful about how to reassure kids. And the best way to relieve anxiety in children is to share with them what steps you are taking to help them and to help keep your family safe. So you might explain to them that we have masks, and that way, anytime that we are outside our home, we're going to protect ourselves and we're going to protect others. Of course, the use of masks, you need to consult it also with your pediatrician, because depending on the age of your child, it might not be recommended that kids use masks for a prolonged amount of time, or if there are other underlying conditions, it also might not be advisable. So this is for older kids in general, but hand washing, for example, is very concrete, it's very useful, and it works. So you can always number all the different steps that you're taking as a family, so that way your kids can have some sense of control and security, and also tell them that you have plans, that there is a plan in case anybody gets sick, and you can call doctors, and that there's certain medications. You are not lying, because there are certain ways to treat this disease, but obviously there's not a cure, but there are different treatments that are working. So please reassure your children, because I think that's what's really, really on their minds, whether they're 3 or they're 17. The next question that I've been getting is that since we're spending so much time at home, siblings can get on each other's nerves. I mean, every single member of the family right now is sharing so much time together, and we're not used to it. We're used to having our privacy, our own activities. Even younger kids, when they go to preschool, my kids went to Talbot and they absolutely loved it. When they're at preschool, they're playing, they're seeing their friends, they're interacting with other children, they're spending time away from home. Right now, we are in a situation that is the perfect storm for siblings fighting, especially when they're younger. Teens tend to just hide in their rooms and not interact with each other. They might fight a little bit, but the fights are a little different when they're younger. So if this is your case, my first advice would be to actually find ways to keep them entertained. I know it's a challenge. I know that we're all safer at home, and that it can be quite difficult to actually find different activities for every single day, but there are so many free resources online. You can organize scavenger hunts at home. You can do dance competitions. You can bake or cook as a family. Try to think outside of the box, because the less bored that they are, the less inclined they will be to fight with each other. The other big tip is to find ways to reinforce good behavior. These are the basic principles of positive parenting. Positive discipline, positive parenting, it really works. It basically means that you ignore negative behavior and you reinforce and celebrate the good behavior. So if you see that your children are behaving and that they're doing something good, you actually make a really big deal about it. You celebrate, you congratulate them, you can even give them a sticker or a small prize, you can make charts, and that way your child will realize that they don't need to misbehave to get your attention, because sometimes children feel a little neglected and they will do anything to grab your attention. And that means sometimes misbehaving. And what happens if you're only giving them attention when they're throwing a tantrum or hitting their sibling? They think that that's the best way to actually grab your attention. But if they learn that they have better quality time with you, if they have more rewards, if they actually feel more approval from their parents when they're doing something good, they will start repeating that behavior. This takes time, and I know that it seems sometimes counterintuitive to actually ignore the bad behavior, but you can always find a consequence that doesn't have to be a kind of reward with your attention. You can set limits, and you can address whatever behavior is not acceptable at home, but try not to make a big deal. Don't go immediately to give them more attention while they're acting out. So try to strike a balance between addressing the problem. Obviously, if your child is endangering the other children at home, please do not hesitate to act. But in most cases, they're bickering. One is taking away the toys of the other, or getting into the other child's stuff. So these are things that, although they're I mean, it's annoying, it's not really putting in hazard, like it's not risking your other children at home. The other tip that I wanted to share with you is that if you create some sort of team of your kids against you, whether to play or whether there's like some kind of competition, that way they become allies. And it's very interesting to see how kids start bonding because they have like a common mission to win, they have to actually collaborate amongst each other. So that can be also another approach to prevent siblings from fighting one against the other. And finally, I know that a lot of parents, me included, are a little bit concerned because our kids are spending so much time in front of their screens. So in general, the American Academy of Pediatrics recommends that kids spend an hour a day at the most of screen time. And that obviously right now is not happening. Instead of obsessing over everything that you're not doing well and that you are allowing kids to play more on phones, to play with apps, to be on an Xbox, to watch Netflix when they're older, cut yourself some slack. I think right now, this time is so different from anything else that we've ever faced as parents, that we have to relax those rules a little bit more. Yes, we need to have rules. There has to be structure. Kids thrive when there is structure and there's a sense of predictability. But regarding screen time, I think it is okay, aside from any distance learning that you might be doing these days, I think it's okay for kids to relax with screen time, FaceTiming friends, using all the different games that you might approve, because that's another thing, right? We can't just approve everything. Games have to be age appropriate. I recommend educational apps, especially for younger children. There are so many, and there are great resources on YouTube Kids as well that are age appropriate. But you cannot leave younger kids unattended whenever they're surfing the internet. You have to enable parental controls, and you have to be very aware about online safety. So that's a tip that I also want to share with you, because now is not the time to just leave them doing whatever. No, you have to be very on top of whatever apps, whatever restrictions you have enabled in all devices, and not forget that kids sometimes, without any bad intentions, can access content that we would prefer that they don't have access to. So I'm actually offering, I'll be putting up the link in the comment section below, a link about parenting in the age of social media. I have a few tips, a few resources, a few apps that I recommend for monitoring, because it is important. Right now, we can't forget about our kids' safety online. And although right now we're at home, so FOMO, the fear of missing out, might be reduced in tweens and teens, we have to be very aware that cyberbullying is still present and can still make an appearance. So we can't really relax our guidance and our vigilance about what's going on online when our kids are connecting on social media. So just be very aware of that, because I know we're all tired. We're all emotionally drained, and it's very easy when we're tired to just relax about everything. And there's certain things that it's our responsibility as parents to model good behavior and also to set the rules, because we can have the best of relationships with our kids, but the reality is that we're the parent. So we get to set the rules, and whenever those rules need to be adjusted, as is the case of this pandemic, it is okay, but there needs to be a discussion. Everybody needs to be on the same page in your household about what those rules are, how long they will last, whether it's a temporary situation while we're still at home, and what the consequences will be whenever those rules are broken. So these are really important things to keep in mind, that even though we might be relaxing our attitude about, let's say, screen time. We're not relaxing our attitude about parenting and raising our children in general. I really invite you to not parent from the fear of your children doing constantly the wrong thing or being constantly endangered. No, I want to empower you. All this knowledge can help you make better decisions for your family. I don't know your case personally. I don't know your child's personality. You know your kid better than anybody else. You know what strategies work and what doesn't work. But it's really important right now to listen to our children, pay attention to their body language, to see what they're struggling with. They might be struggling with the sense of isolation, that they're not playing with their friends. They might be struggling with the lack of physical activity. So maybe it's time to actually find ways to be more physically active inside the home, to find ways that they can burn off that steam, because it affects children not only physically, but also emotionally. And also keep in mind that kids have a hard time verbalizing what they're feeling. And if you start asking too many questions, they're going to clam up. So the best way is to do an activity with them and get them to relax, and then you can start having a conversation, or just follow their cue. If they want to talk to you, just listen. Try to not overreact, or so that way they can start getting the conversation and they feel comfortable sharing something that maybe they feel anxious about, or maybe they feel it's stupid to be feeling a certain way or to ask themselves certain questions. And the best thing that you can do right now is be there for your child. Be the one that's giving them the most emotional support to guide them through this process, even if you don't have the answers. But reassure them that we'll get through this together, because it is true. Humanity has gone through horrible moments and we survived. So I think that right now we need to build resilience in our kids. We need to be very aware of our own reactions, our words, and our actions as well. So even though we are struggling, and it's okay to feel anxious and nervous, whenever you're with your child, try to focus on the moment. Try to focus on your kid instead of having all these different worries in your head. Because if you're focused in the present, it's going to help you block out all that noise, all that uncertainty, and just focus on the bond that you're building with your child. And if there is a silver lining, the silver lining is that we're spending more time as a family. And that can have a really positive side, even though it can be very, very stressful and overwhelming as well. We cannot gloss it over, especially after 2 months of staying at home. I hope these tips help you. I know it's a lot of information. I know it's a lot to digest, but I'm always available. I'm here on Facebook. My Facebook page is bilingual in English and in Espanol. It's called Hispanic Global, and you can also friend me here as a member of the community. You are super, super welcome to message me. I'll try to help you. I'm not a therapist. I'm a parenting writer. So I interview a lot of experts, and all the advice that I give, it comes not only from my own experience as a mom. I have a 14-year-old girl and a 17-year-old boy, but also as a journalist, because I've interviewed so many experts and I'm on the board of several organizations. So that way I can always be up to date with that relevant information to help you and to help your family. Thank you so much, Aventura Turnberry Jewish Center, for this opportunity. I will be answering all the questions that you post here in the comment section below. I'm also posting the link as soon as we finish this conversation, so that way you can get my parenting tips in the age of social media. And you can follow me on Instagram as well at Jeannette Kaplun, which is, I know, a mouthful, but I'll also be leaving my handles on social in the comment section below. Thank you so much. Stay safe. I hope everybody stays well. And remember, we're all doing the best we can. So be kind to yourself and be kind to your kids as well, but don't expect perfection. These are not the parenting Olympics. We're here for the long run, and we don't know how long it's going to be. We really don't know. So just make peace with that uncertainty. Take it a day at a time. And if today was not a good day, go to sleep, and tomorrow is a new day and a fresh start. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope to connect with you. Bye.